how can we not get excited when we talk about the grace of God? I think when we start with thinking through who God is and who man is, then we're left to ponder the grace of God. We start by seeing who God is. We see the Bible expressing His holiness and His otherness, His majesty, His glory, His sovereignty, and we contrast that with the biblical description of who we are as man. And the Bible paints a picture of man that isn't very pretty. We see that man is fallen, sinful, children of wrath, that we are under the wrath of God. The Bible speaks of man as creating new ways to do evil. So we really see this very dark picture of who man is and this glorious picture of who God is. And then we're left with the question of how can these two be reconciled? How can sinful man be reconciled to a holy God? The Bible speaks of us being dead in our trespasses and sins. And so if we're dead in our trespasses and sins, how can we bridge that gap between us and God? And we can't, but the answer is grace. The Bible describes this glorious thing called grace. And grace makes the difference. And as we grow in our relationship with God, we grow in our amazement at the grace of God, because the more we see how awesome and holy God is, and the more we see how wicked we are day to day, living out our lives and seeing our sin, we realize just how amazing grace really is. That Jesus Christ, the eternal Son of God, would enter into His own creation. That He would take on flesh, and that He would live the perfect life that I could never live. And not only that, that He would go to a cross, that He would die in my place, taking the very wrath of God that I deserve for my sin. That He would rise from the dead, that He's now seated at the right hand of the Father, interceding for me. And that by placing my faith in the person and finished work of Jesus Christ, His perfect life is credited to my account, so that when God looks at me, He sees me as though I've lived the perfect life that Jesus lived. That is grace. If that doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what will, because that is the grace of God. That He would adopt me as a son. And so that's why we should be floored when we consider the gospel. That's why we should be wrecked when we consider the all-sufficient grace of God.